Welcome, my name is Mark Jensen, and this is NewMediaGear.com, the video edition, where we take a look at professional audio gear, and this time in studio. Well, first of all, hope everything is going great in your corner of the world as you tune in. We get email, and we invite you to send one if you'd like. Certainly always great to hear from you. Mark at NewMediaGear.com. And we do have a listener that had several times asked me about this device. So we did an audio podcast on the Art Studio V3 Tube MP model. And what it is basically just a real simple preamplifier, microphone preamplifier. And it also includes a little bit of, well, I mean, I was going to call it compression, but it's really just very aggressive compression. It's output protection limiting. OPL is what they call it. And what it is it basically tones down things so you don't get flat topping in the digital domain. And, well, it's really hard for engineers to agree on anything, but generally it's accepted that anything about 10 to 1 or greater compression could be considered limiting. And there are many different types of limiting as well. The curves, whether you have a gentle slope, attack time, release time, the look-ahead time, and brick wall limiting, things like that. So far beyond the scope of what I could cover here. But just to let you know, this does have a limiter built into it. As well, it has a pretty cool preamp. It's not going to compete with the high-dollar mic preamps out there, but it certainly does a very respectable job. It's clean. It's not noisy at all. You'll also note that if you look in the background, the Aphex and the Duros, even the 230, if I move my arm, they're all dark because we have a direct line from the microphone to the input of the preamp. And then the output of the preamp goes to directly the FirePod from PreSonus, which are still working great as well. So there's nothing really in the middle. It's a very simple hookup. You do have, I wanted to show you on the top, you have both XLR and TRS connections. Currently our microphone, of course, is XLR. You do have a 1/4 inch input, though, if you wanted to plug in high impedance device, maybe acoustic guitar pickup, instrument pickup, you can do that as well. If you plug them both in, this input is a little bit higher impedance. It'll probably draw down the circuit a little bit, not recommended, but you could, in a pinch, plug in both inputs. Recommended, though, that you only plug in one. The output side, you have an XLR connector as well. We're currently using the 1/4 inch unbalanced TS connector from Neutrik. And this finally is the power adapter. And it's kind of surprising that this having a tube in it, really it's only 9 volts AC and pulls about 800 milliamps peak. So it's a fairly small draw. It takes very little power. It does get a little bit warm and toasty thanks to the tube. And so you have you can barely see them here, 3 little vents. This is where the physical tube sits, and you can see it normally. And you have on the input side, okay, this is the input gain, so very simple there. As well, you have a 20 dB plus or minus. Since I'm using I'm using a condenser microphone, I've got the basically 20 dB pad in. I took the 20 dB gain out. If you're running a dynamic, as we were in the audio podcast, like the RE27 here, Attack of the Giant 27, that I had to run full bore with the 20 dB gain switch all the way out. So as well, you also have 48 volts phantom power, and you have a phase reversal switch. So you can actually switch the hot and cold line on the input if you ever needed to do that for phasing. On the, let's see, so those are the inputs, the outputs, and on the front, of course, is the fun stuff, the analog VU meter. Now that is very cool. You can't probably see the needle actually moving around, but I can tell you this analog VU meter I have to smile when I think about it and see it because I know we're living in the digital age, but it's always great to see the analog VU meter. And this one is fairly responsive, so that's always a good thing too. Sometimes they can get a little bit sloppy and flop around. You can have it, clicking against the side. This does not do that. Very well engineered. I was surprised at that. Also, when you have the limiter in, you can see that reflected in the VU meter pattern, as well as the color of the LED right below it. Now, as you may or may not know, I can't really see reds and greens, so that's I couldn't tell you what color it is right now. But anyway, that will give you some indication if you can. And the other cool part is this knob right in the middle. I'm going to start down at flat, which is right there. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's flat. And you go through these variable presets, and I suspect what they're doing is either supplying different voltage to the tube, biasing it differently, but you get these different sounds. And when you get up towards the top, which is going to be right along, if you see this curve, so right from the top on down, that means you're in the OPL, or output protection limiting. So it really means the limiter has been turned on. And there is certainly a drastic difference. As I go, this is without the limiter, and if I get a little bit too close, try to push it a little bit too hard, can get into overdrive. But then if I do this, you'll notice it cuts it right back. So the limiter is doing its job, and there are a couple presets that make a pretty drastic difference in the sound. Now keep in mind as well, no noise gate involved here. So you're hearing the room background noise just as we're recording. This is kind of a nice preset. This is probably my favorite one. This includes the limiter, and it also tends to brighten up the highs a little bit. So I really like this setting. We went through all of them on the audio podcast, newmediagear.com. If you're watching the show and it's not right at the top, just do a search or scroll down a little bit, and you'll find the Studio V3 show, the audio program. So just wanted to give you a glimpse. I see I'm running short on time here, but I did want to show you the Tube MP, which I think is a great value, coming in at a street price of about $75 right now. For that kind of money, to get a preamplifier with phantom power and add a little bit of tube warmth in there, the analog VU meter, I think it's a great device to have in the studio. Good tool. So we hope you've enjoyed a look at the Studio V3 from Art. It's the Tube MP model, and we'll be back again very shortly with some other cool devices in studio. This episode of New Media Gear is brought to you by BSW. If you'd like to take advantage of great pro audio gear and get a discount, just go to newmediagear.com. In the top left-hand corner, you can't miss it, it's the flashing VU meter banner of savings. Click that, takes you right to the code and right to the savings on great professional audio gear. BSW, audio gear from people you trust.
Studio 1A.